Warning. This program contains strong language, auditory violence, and mental nudity. It is intended only for mature audiences. Listener discretion is advised.
Welcome to your uncensored home for World of Warcraft news and opinions. This is Unshackled Fury.
Spring has sprung as the booty battle continues, and reactions to World of Warcraft's newest edition continue to roll in. So welcome back for episode 145 of your uncensored home for World of Warcraft news and opinions, Unshackled Fury. I'm your host, Berserker, and with me once again is the King of Leaks, known as Mr. Jez Corden. Welcome back again, good sir.
Yeah, I'm hanging up the leaking hat. I think it gets me in too much trouble. But yeah, hey man, how's it been going? It's been quite a news heavy couple of weeks in the World of Warcraft sphere, I think.
It has, and I first want to say sorry about the April Fools. Whoever downloaded the last thing, all of that was boo boo. That was all. I just roped Jez into doing that with me, and poor guy, he played along. All of that, none of that is real. If it is real, we don't know. Everything we said on the April 1st episode was boo boo. So please don't.
It was really funny if some of it did turn out to be real.
Jesus Christ!
if it does turn out to be real, I'm just going to be like, yep, I knew that.
Yep. So we said we didn't, but we really did. You know. Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah, man. It's been good. It's Easter where we are, so I don't know. Do they do Easter big where you're at? Because here it's what doesn't matter denomination or non-denomination. You're doing something today with family and food and chocolate and candy and bunnies and a whole bunch of shit.
Yeah, I suppose so. I mean, I'm in Germany right now, and my girlfriend's family, they take it quite seriously. They do, you know, they're all grown, but they do the egg hunting in the garden, you know,
yes.
Getting together with family, having breakfast and dinner with the family and stuff like that, you know, the immediate close family. But also my British family, not so much, I think. But in Britain, there's a lot of chocolate being eaten, chocolate Easter eggs. That's what Britain likes to do with Easter. But yeah, it's and also in World of Warcraft, Noble Garden, I guess. So
yes.
So even in the World of Warcraft, there's a bit of tradition there.
Everywhere we look. And before we move on, because Jez, I've said it once, I've said it 1,000 times. We cannot. I think we are constitutionally opposed to being able to do a single episode of this podcast without talking about Cyberpunk. So, yeah. Before we get to our metal album of the week, I think this is a good plug, frankly, for something that everybody should be watching. Was that you finally finished the Netflix series Cyberpunk Edge Runners?
Oh yes,
which is an unbelievable accomplishment, and I'm so glad you finally finished it because it is so fucking gorgeous.
It is so good. I was like, I didn't know what to expect because there is a stigma with video game adaptations, whether it's like the Halo TV show. I know hasn't been super popular with hardcore fans of the franchise, even though a lot of people say that the second season rather, has been a lot better. And then there's like, I recently checked out, because Dragon's Dogma 2 has been big in the news. I've been playing Dragon's Dogma 2. Did you know they made a Dragon's Dogma Netflix anime as well?
I heard.
Yeah, it's like a long time ago though, and apparently I haven't watched it fully yet, but lots of people say it's terrible. So there's a lot of stigma around these kind of adaptations, but Cyberpunk, man, Edge Runners really raised the bar for this shit, man. I was so elated because, you know, a big Cyberpunk fan in general, the genre, but also, you know, the games and what CD Projekt Red are doing, and Mike Pondsmith and all that kind of stuff. So like for the TV adaptation to be so good, and there's not going to be any spoilers here, but you know, it was just perfect, man. It was perfect. I kind of feel like the second half of it kind of rushed along a little bit. Like it almost feels like they were like, oh, we want to tell this story, but we've got to pack it into a certain, you know, amount of space, and it does kind of feel like they rushed. It's a little bit frantic, the second half of the show, but I think they still executed it really well. Great animation, great characters, great storyline. I felt empty by the end of it. Empty and just like, wow, what a ride, what a rush. Maybe it's a good thing it's so frantic at the end, because I did feel like I just finished a roller coaster, man. So yeah, amazing. I highly recommend it to anyone.
Yeah, Studio Trigger, I think is the one that had it, and they're just, when it was first announced, we're like, all right, so it's a couple years away, and we knew we were gonna have to wait for it. But when it hit, I mean, you know, I watched it right away, and I think I've watched it all the way through 4 times now. Like, I actually I was just watching the finale right before I jumped on the call with you, because I was like, oh yeah, this is so good. So good. It is. Yeah, the way that especially the last 2 episodes run, it's just a hardcore sprint all the way to the end, and then hold on to your emotions. That's all I gotta say, is because that shit really lands is like heavy. Yeah, it really is like a blaze of glory, isn't it? And I suppose like that's part of the theme of being an edge runner. You live in life on the edge, you know. And it's incredible, man. I absolutely loved it. All the characters. It's hard to talk about without getting into spoiler territory, so we won't. But definitely watch that show. It's absolutely incredible. If they did a Warcraft show on that level, it would be so good. Man, that's kind of the last piece of this, right? Is we always hear these little whispers about a Warcraft show somewhere, and it's things like Edge Runners. You're exactly right. I look at that and I go, oh man, could you imagine if they went back and told, I don't know, the Arthas story this way? Oh god, yeah, the Arthas story. That would be so good. Like with the style of like maybe the Castlevania anime, and you know, the darkness and the shadowy, you know, the Stratholme, you know, and that sort of gothic themes with the zombies, and that could be so good if they did it. Microsoft's been quite aggressive in commissioning these shows. They've got a Minecraft movie coming out with Jack Black. They've got that's right. Yeah, they do, and they've got the Halo TV show obviously with Paramount, which, you know, some people are mixed on, but they're trying, bless them. They've got a Gears of War movie in the works, and also a Gears of War anime TV show in the works. A Grounded TV show based on the survival game, and a bunch of other stuff they're working on. So this is definitely within Microsoft's sort of interest to expand the footprint of their franchises, and now they own World of Warcraft, maybe they'll greenlight some stuff that Activision wouldn't have done. But we'll see what happens. Man, I hope so, because to kind of close this up, I know that there is going to be some sort of live action cyberpunk something, and I keep watching all this stuff unfold and go, I know we got the movie, and I love the Warcraft movie, but man, there was so much left there for us. I would have loved a director's cut of that movie. Yeah, no shit. Just give me all the deleted scenes they talked about. You know, give me the full whack 4 hours. Yeah. Give it to me. Metzen trying to sell me street meat. I want every cut scene of that. Yeah. All right. Well, Cyberpunk Edge Runners, if you haven't watched it, get your ass on Netflix. Check that shit out. And our metal album of the week. Now this one, Jez, I don't even know if you've heard of this band. I don't know if you've heard of anything about this band or this album. We're gonna have to go all the way back to 1995, and we're gonna talk about fucking weird one. This is a weird one, and I was listening to this the last week at work while I was doing some projects, and I don't know why, but we're going back to June 6th, 1995, to the album from the band Primus. Tales from the Punch Bowl. I love Primus. What are you talking about? Les Claypool. I love Primus. Yes, man. Yes. That's a classic album. I love that. Yes, I'm gonna listen to Primus after it. Funnily enough, though, I got into Primus because of South Park.
when I was a kid, like my first introduction to Primus was South Park.
There it is.
And it kind of right in the smack in the middle of the ending credits, like intro music by Primus. I was like, oh man, gotta check this band out. You know.
That's right.
But,
yeah, they've been around a long ass time. Les Claypool, right? The most famous Central Front man member there. This album in particular was known for the song Winona's Big Brown Beaver.
Yes.
Which had a lot of connotation. Like in the 90s, this could have gone a lot of different ways and been related to different people, and they've kind of danced around what it meant and what it was about, and it took on a life of its own at that time. And the whole album itself is pretty odd. Like if you're not used to Primus, and you might be like, oh, Primus, that's not metal. I mean, it's funk metal, alternative metal. It fits
alternative kind of.
It's right on the edge.
It's metal. It's metal. It's spiritually metal, I think.
There you go. Spiritually metal.
Yeah, I like post metal. It's funny, you know, when you're talking about album of the week, I was thinking like, well, I've been listening to a metal album recently, and the Beggar by Swans, and I was going to throw that in there, and I was thinking, wait, is that actually metal? And I was thinking, well, it's kind of spiritually metal. It's like alternative.
It was enough that it got you to buy the CD.
Yeah, I bought CD. Swans are like one of the few bands that I always make sure I buy the CD, even though I only listen to Spotify and don't own a single disc. Well, I suppose I could put it in my Xbox, but who listens to CDs through their Xbox? So that CD's being bought and it's staying in the cellophane, going on the shelf. It's just literally just to support the band. I love Swans so much, but yeah, Primus is awesome too. I got a bunch of Primus CDs as well. I still have a CD collection. How weird is that in the current year?
I mean, you're talking to somebody that's half a generation older than you, I think. So I've got tons of them somewhere in the garage, but I also have a dual cassette tape deck in my stereo stack right here behind me. So, you know, it's a turntable and 2 cassette tapes. There's not even a CD player hooked up to it. So we got old school, new school around here. You know, we're appreciative of all the formats around the Unshackled Fury parts. That's
even mini disc.
Even mini disc. Somewhere even mini disc has its place. Laser disc. Who knows? All right, folks. Well, there's your metal album of the week. Primus, Tales from the Punch Bowl. It is kind of a funny one. Just I don't know. Just chill out and listen to it, and don't go anywhere. Just sit and chill and listen. That's the vibe. Spiritual metal. So give it a listen. And now, Jez, we have a very relevant rage topic to us as content creators that we need to talk about. So let's get into it.
Let's rage.
You know, I'd like to think that you and I, Jez, that we are good stewards of the Warcraft content creator side of things. I think that, we generally stay out of, too much trouble. I think we support the brand. I think we support other creators. I think we are good stewards of the ship around here. And so I have to say, I was very hurt when we found out that there was going to be a battle royale for the new Plunder Storm game that we all know about. We'll talk about here in a little bit, but there was a content creator battle royale that was announced, and I did not get an invitation. You did not get an invitation, and I was bereft. I was beside myself. I was verklempt. I was completely befuddled, bemused. I didn't know what to do with myself. Do I stream? No. But they could have asked.
Do you PvP?
I don't PvP, but they could have asked. What happened to our invitations, Jez?
I don't know. Not piratey enough, I guess.
Yeah. Dang it. I guess if we throw in a few yars around, I don't know.
Yarr. But that is the big news of du jour is the Plunderstorm, the big battle royale. I suppose dropped a few hints on it on the last show, when I mentioned Fortnite and stuff. But yeah, it was this battle royale thing, which is interesting, and it's definitely had an interesting reaction, I would say, from the wider community, wouldn't you?
Yes. Plunderstorm is all the rage. So now that we got that quick thing out of the way, that quick little lament of mine, why don't we jump into the news and dive into Plunderstorm? Jez, do you wear glasses? I can't remember.
I do. I do wear glasses.
God, these dang things. I tell you what. I'm
hate
about a
wearing
year.
glasses.
I'm about a year into this process, and I cannot believe how dirty they get, how quickly, all the time.
Are you a new glasses wearer?
Like only in the past year.
Oh man, good. Well, gutted for you.
I
been
made
wearing
it
them
past
since
40.
I was a
That was
kid.
the big get. I made it past 40.
I
Anyway.
thought like if you make it past like 20 without glasses, then you're scot free. I didn't
No.
know. I didn't know you could.
Eventually, you get caught.
Damn,
You can't get out.
I did not know that.
Yeah,
Good
my ophthalmologist said if I made it to 40, I won't make it to 45, and she was right.
Damn.
That's how
Well,
that goes. But
Yeah, my condolences.
thank you. First world problems. So speaking of Plunderstorm, all the rage, and Jez, you knew, as you said before, we dropped some hints, but you fully well knew, for real, this is real, that this was going to be a 60-person battle royale. Like you were in the know. And so I'm actually kind of curious to get your take on this first, is that did this meet with the expectation that you had, just sort of like knowing intellectually, like, okay, I think I know what this is, and then seeing it and then getting your hands on it? Like, did this do anything for you? Did it match your expectation, exceed your expectation? What was your take on this thing?
I expected it to be along these lines. I mean, I had some information wrong. I think I wrote somewhere that it was 60 v 60 or something, and I was like, okay, well, I misread that bit. It wasn't 60 v 60. It was just, well, I suppose it's 60 players versus each other, so kind of 59 versus 1 or something. I don't know, but I misinterpreted that bit, which is whatever. But I knew it was going to be a separate client thing, and a separate mode, not really sort of embedded in the game. Like, it wouldn't be like a battleground in the game, necessarily, or even canon, I suppose. But I was kind of impressed that the rewards carry over. I didn't think it would do that. I did know it was going to be a time limited thing. Like it was sold to me as some kind of experiment, Yeah. So I
think 6 weeks.
6 weeks, yeah. It was largely in line with what I expected. I don't know if I'm curious how well it's doing for Blizzard, I think. Because it is this weird experimental thing, but must have had some decent dev hours go into it, because it's got its own abilities, it's got its own rewards, and all this kind of stuff. And I know that they've got technology now where it's a little bit easier for them to ramp up these kind of separate modes fairly quickly, which is, that's where Season of Discovery came from, right? They can quickly and easily modify the game clients to build these kind of modes out. And judging by GDC, which we'll talk about more in a bit, it does seem like these extra modes have served them in growing subscribers and maintaining subscriber base throughout the expansion, where typically the expansion would see a shrinking user base over the course of its life, where people get bored and they want to wait for the next thing. But these modes like Season of Discovery, and I suppose Plunderstorm as well, has kept people subscribed for longer. So it does seem to be working out for them, but I don't know if you feel the same way. I can't help but feel like the dev hours and the budget that went into Plunderstorm could have been used to make a proper Season 4 for the retail. Can't help but feel that way. As someone who I don't really care about PvP, and I don't care about PvP that much in general. But I care about Battle Royale even less. So this is the definition of not for me.
Yeah.
But that's kind of selfish because, you know, there are people who are enjoying it. There's people in my guild who enjoy it and they're playing it actively, and you know, especially the younger people in my guild that are enjoying it. My main tank's 19, I think, or 20 or something. I've seen him talking about it quite a lot. So that's kind of the positive aspect of this. It appeals to potentially the generation that grew up with Battle Royale as their you know, their modus operandi of gaming in general, you know. So maybe this is a good thing overall, because one thing that WoW needs is new players, younger players, the next generation of players. So it can be taken two ways, really. I'm salty that it's not for me, but at the same time, I'm kind of glad that it exists, you know?
Yeah, I don't know that there's a whole lot of daylight between us on that. You know, when it first got announced, right, and looking at it going, okay, it's this 60-person battle royale. I know what a battle royale is now, but you know, I think I tried Fortnite once many years ago and was like, no, not doing this. You know, but we found out, okay, 6-week event. We got 40 renown levels we can grind out. There's like a mount and transmog and another Pepe, and they're selling official merch on the store, and they kept making updates. There's even a 1 million plunder secret achievement out there somewhere. You know, they have put some work and interest into it, and like yourself, as many times I've avowed on the show, PvP is not my thing. If you want PvP, go listen to Technically PvP, our friends here. But I gotta give it a shot, right? I got a podcast, goddammit. I gotta get on there and see what the thing is. So I get on there, and I'm like, all right, here we go, and I'm getting dropped in, and at first I didn't even know that I could steer myself like coming into the map. I just fell. I mean, I just, you know, fell wherever it was. And I'm like, okay. And I start hacking on some things. And I think I got, I don't know, 30 seconds in. And I was like, oh, what's this ability do? And then boom, I'm dead. I'm like, all right. Okay. I see you. Luckily, you know, you could eject out. You don't have to watch the whole thing. You could leave and then jump into another game. So I did that. And then I think I lasted maybe another couple minutes. And then boom, I get killed and I'm out again. I'm like, oh,
that's the Battle Royale experience.
Yeah, I tried again. I'm like, all right, let's go. And then I was like, I'm just going to stick around the edge. I'm going to avoid everybody. I'm just going to try to get these mobs by myself and kind of try to level up and get some things. And I ended up in a battle with one guy, finally, who caught me. And when he killed me, he did the cry emote. And I was like, you know what? I've had enough. I'm done. Like, I think I've had enough. And so I jumped out. I was like, yeah, this not for me. I appreciate the gimmick and like the piratey nature of it, and you're chasing stuff around, and you got kind of just random abilities and double jump, and it's very different, but within the same sort of universe. And so it was kind of this alternate universe lens that was kind of neat to see. But then I got in with the homie Rommel into some duos, and that actually did make a difference. Duos is the way to go. Doing it by yourself, I think, is terrible. I will never go into another one by myself. Congratulations to all the people and all of you listening that already, you know, went out and grinded these 40 renown levels. I will never see the end of that. I think I'm at 4 right now. Renown 4. I think I'm very close to 5. I may never see 5. I don't know. I just saw that they announced trios are coming, so hey, why not? 2's good, 3's better. That did make a difference to me, but overall, there's very little chance that I will come back to this actively unless there's some major reward or some other tie that like I have to have. You know, it was funny before I got in, seeing the other content creators and sort of their reactions, and some people just shitting all over it, some people absolutely loving it, then people getting mad at the people that were shitting on it, and then there was the people that were saying, oh, I love it, and then privately saying that they hate it, and it was just like
that was the thing. I didn't know that.
Oh yeah. You can't trust a content creator, Jez. I mean, I say that knowing full well what you and I are doing here, but I mean, it was brought to my attention of at least one who publicly was like, "Oh, this is great" or whatever, and then privately was slamming it, and I'm like, God, it happens all the time.
Oh man,
just sort of the disingenuousness of certain content creators just cracks me up. But overall, this does very much feel like the target audience is different than us, which traditionally Warcraft has an older audience, base audience, if I understand sort of the metrics correctly. So it's targeting towards somebody else, younger, I think, like you said, more interested in that battle royale. Blizzard, as it is wont to do, bringing a battle royale out many years after it seems to be in its height of relevance. Maybe I'm wrong about that. But the one thing that I did enjoy about it was way back when in the Burning Crusade era, we had basically welfare epics where if you, what we call them, is if you went in and did PvP, you didn't even have to win. If you just did like a 3-on-3 and you did like 10 of them or something, I can't remember exactly how it worked, but you could get yourself an epic piece of gear. And at that time, there were some PvP pieces that were better than PvE pieces, to the point where I got some pants off of Gruul due to a loot council in the guild that I was in, and it was so uproarious that I was gifted such a thing when I had the PvP pants that were supposed to be better that the guild broke up. But point that I'm getting at, yes, that's million years ago.
Hardcore drama, man.
Yeah, Pretendere, rest in peace. The feeling of going in and just grinding these things out with a friend, it did kind of elicit that feeling again, which was kind of fun. And so I did enjoy that aspect of it, of like, all right, we're just banging these things out because we kind of like have to in a way. So it was just a good chance for me and my buddy to catch up, and we played, and that was kind of it. But yeah, man, this is clearly not for us. And that is also, I think, indicative, or I think what also sort of indicates that this is the thinking is, if you look at the people who were actually invited to the content creator battle royale, it was not a bunch of known WoW streamers. It was kind of across the board of people who stream, and people complained about that. And then you had people that were like, well, this is a marketing gimmick, so don't take it personally because they invited these huge streamers, because, as you pointed out, Jez, they're trying to get eyeballs on Warcraft, they're trying to get eyeballs on the product, and so they're casting a wide net. And if it costs them $50,000 in prize money and the cost to do the production, that's probably money well spent, and that's how they're gonna choose to look at these things. So yeah, I know, tongue-in-cheek around here, don't really have a problem with who they invited to the battle royale. I could not give a shit less. It would have been a complete waste of time for me and everybody else. But were you surprised at all by how they handled the battle royale? Which, by the way, I did watch, and I thought it was very fun, and I thought they did a great job. And apparently, a French duo that were not Daft Punk won it. And yeah, I thought it was well done. But did you get a chance to look at it, or did you have any thoughts about the battle royale?
I didn't play it myself. I've been really busy at work the past couple of weeks with Dragon's Dogma 2. So I kind of been out of pocket a little bit on that stuff. But I keep an eye on the discussions about it. They just come up in my Reddit feed and stuff like that. It's interesting to see the back and forth on it, and is it a good thing, is it a bad thing? I do think, like, in the spirit of WoW wanting to sort of find what its next generation of players looks like, it's probably a good experiment to have done. And Holly Longdale did tease that the next experiment will be PvE oriented, which
yes.
That sounds interesting.
I'll read that statement in a little bit.
Yeah. Got people thinking about things like the Mage Tower, or maybe a better version of Torghast, because I really like the idea of Torghast, but the execution just wasn't that great. So maybe they can look at some of that stuff, and hopefully maybe like something that adds maybe a little spice to season 4, because I know we're going to talk about that in a bit, but I'm not really. Season 4 seems a bit anemic at the moment. So yeah, I suppose that's my thought on it. My thought process is like, it's cool that they've done it, and it's cool that they are looking to ways to appeal to maybe a younger audience and stuff. But I go back to what I've said here before on the show, that if you want to appeal to younger audiences, you've got to do something about the starting experience again, because time walking ain't it, man. It's not. You know, going back to a previous timeline where you don't know what the hell's going on and the story's all messed up, and you finish the expansion before you actually hit the level cap. Well, no, the other way around. You hit the level cap before you finish the expansion, so you don't get the story properly. They need to completely revamp their sort of experience of being like level 1 to 60. And I've always thought that includes another Cataclysm style revamp of the old world, because that's where you really get in tune with your character and immersed in the role playing aspect of, you know, being a horde or alliance and all that kind of stuff. And it's been heavily neglected over the years, and I don't think Battle Royale is going to move the needle, frankly. I think you need all the other stuff on top of it. Just depends, but that is for sure a much bigger job than just building a quick little Battle Royale mode. So yeah, I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah, you're right. We'll touch on season 4. It does seem to be a bit anemic, and people seem to be a little, you know, low key miffed about it. Some maybe more high key, but yeah. So we'll see. Plunderstorm will be around for a little bit. It's only been out for a couple weeks at this point. Should have another, I think, month to go. So it's going to be around. They're going to keep making changes to it. Like I said, they're about to add trios, so that should change things up, make it a little more fun. And who knows? I appreciate the effort that they are trying to put into finding something different. But as you said, you know, as a PvE player, I would love to see the figures and the stats of, you know, the participation of who does what, and sort of, as I always argue that PvE should be priority, and for the most part it very much is. So I don't want to take away from the PvP slice of the cake, because they really get it. Hopefully we'll see something a little more PvE oriented along these wacky lines. I think that's where it is. I think that's where it's at. So Thunderstorm, it's out, another month. If you like it, congratulations. If you don't, we'll see you in Cyberpunk. Now the next one, next item I have here, you are again uniquely qualified, I think, to talk about, which is John Haidt, who is this is a mouthful, the Senior Vice President and Warcraft Franchise General Manager. Gotta say that 10 times fast. He was recently at GDC for short. But GDC, what is GDC?
The Games Developer Conference.
And what the hell is that?
It's a conference for game developers. No, it's like it's an annual. It's literally it's an annual conference for game developers, and they have sort of like panels, and sometimes they announce games at these things, and they do little marketing beats, especially indie stuff. It's a good place for, you know, devs to market their games and network, and, you know, pitch their games to publishers and be like, hey, we want to make this game. Here's the prototype. Give us $500 million, you know, kind of thing. And then the publishers say, no, you can't have $500 million. And then there's all this back and forth, you know. But that's pretty much what it's for.
Okay.
It's all business, all game development all the time. And this year, Blizzard was there with World of Warcraft, and a bit of some rare frankness about Shadowlands and the negative impact it had, but also they had something positive to share, which was that the subscriber figures, as I mentioned earlier, have been uniquely resilient this expansion, because of all the modes and the Season of Discovery and the hardcore stuff and basically everything that isn't retail. But also, I would argue that retail is probably done better than usual as well, because you can see that from the Mythic Plus trackers and stuff that are out there. They showed that there was more Mythic Plus runs done over the course of the season than they'd seen from previous expansions and previous seasons and stuff. So even if like Plunderstorm and Scene of Discovery and Classic Hardcore, if all those modes had a positive impact on overall subscribers, it does seem to have had a halo effect on the amount of people running stuff in retail too. So generally all positive all around, and so it bodes well for the War Within to, if it is of a high quality and the extra modes are well baked and as a successful alpha period, then we should have a lot of good stuff on the horizon, I suppose.
Yeah. And for those of you that haven't seen what we're talking about yet, there was a Korean webzine, Inven, who first posted some, I believe, screenshots or pictures of slides that John Haidt was showing during his presentation at GDC. And a couple things, as Jez mentioned, that he touched on. One were subscriber numbers, although in this presentation, no actual numbers were provided. And I'll get to that more in a second. But essentially what it showed was just the graph of unlabeled subscriber numbers from the time of Legion, basically up until Season of Discovery, just recently here in World of Warcraft, so after the launch of Dragonflight. And so part of what they were talking about was the sort of reliable, as it says here, we expect it to continue that reliable subcurve through Shadowlands and Dragonflight, and then they show what was historically higher churn, and they kind of plotted out a couple of points on the graph that were lower than they expected. And before I get to the actual numbers, the other slide of interest was things that went wrong in Shadowlands.
Shadowlands, just a big logo.
Yeah, that's all they should have done. We just put the jailer's, decrepit face with the Shadowlands logo just right there. Said things that went wrong, and then just moved on. But in the slide, they do have a couple of categories here. One is story and setting, and the bullet points underneath said afterlife setting wasn't accessible. New antagonist wasn't developed. Oh my God, that should have been on there 3 times. And well-known story heroes were diminished. Under gameplay, it said systems didn't evolve with player expectations, borrowed power, which people were tired of, and not enough variety. There you go. Lots of complaints about those systems. And then under community, gaps in content, which, huge lull. Lack of transparency, decision making, right? And then didn't feel heard, right? This is the thing we talk about so often, is all the player feedback that seems to go into a black hole. But they have been better. Nothing's perfect, but they have been better. So trying to own up to, the Shadowlands era was pretty shitty. But here they say we've established the relationship with our players, and they show the numbers climbing with Dragonflight and Season of Discovery. Well, credit to Bellular, who, I met that little fella when we were at BlizzCon, and he was sweaty and on his way to do something, but he was very nice. And I do give him grief sometimes because I think that some of his videos are just, I don't know. He's a YouTuber, and so you got to do things, I guess, to keep the YouTubes paying. But he actually took some legitimate data, and tried to plot out what our subscriber numbers actually look like now. Because if you'll remember way back in the heyday, when we had 12 million subscribers during the Wrath of the Lich King, you damn right they told us. They're like, 12 million. And then it started to drop down to like 10 and 9 and 8. And they're like, I don't know if we want to talk about this anymore. And so they stopped giving us those numbers a decade ago. And so we just kind of guess now. We're just like, we do. I don't know what it is. So credit to Bellular. He kind of plotted this out. And essentially what we're looking at is, if I understood this correctly, sort of like an average subscriber base is about 5.8 million. And we had a height of 8.27 million when, Season of Discovery launched. The Classic launched. Let me pull this up here. Yeah, when World of Warcraft Classic launched, we went up to 8.27 million is what they had plotted out from a low of 4.07 million towards the end of Battle for Azeroth. So Battle for Azeroth, or mid Battle for Azeroth, was not doing well. Shadowlands almost as high as that peak. So it went down after Classic, came back at Shadowlands. Shadowlands also seemed to have a peak of about 8-something million, plummeted down to 4.5, and then it looks like it kind of came up around 6-ish for Dragonflight, and now it's up again to 7.25 million with Season of Discovery. So all in all, I think we've been wondering about this number for years. I have thrown out what my guesses are. I always assumed we were kind of in the 5 to 7 million range at the height, somewhere in there. So I think we always kind of felt like that was the range-ish. But for you, Jez, the professional one here, do these numbers track for you? Does this look right? Does this make sense? Is there anything about this presentation that seems surprising to you?
Well, the thing about graphs and charts is that like one graph could use a completely different scale to another graph. So it's like you can't really line them up and take them at face value. But I was still interested in it because people were asking me about it, and the graph was being circulated around, fair or not, as evidence and whatever. And I've got a pretty good inside track of Blizzard these days, and I just asked my contact. I said, "Do these numbers look anywhere near accurate to you?" And long story short, my source, or one of my sources, I should say, I have several, said,
humble brag.
Humble brag. That's roughly on the money,
All right.
Without giving any exact figures, of course. So,
Yeah.
the numbers are always sensitive, and I suppose like it's doubly sensitive now with Microsoft. Microsoft guards their numbers. Yeah, Microsoft guards their numbers very, very aggressively. They don't talk about Game Pass subscribers anymore, for example. They don't talk about Xbox console sales either, for some reason.
Really?
No, they don't. For similar reasons, they're losing. So, it's like we don't talk about numbers of this company. So I don't have the exact numbers, but they said it's roughly on the money. But I thought, like, even though people were going back and forth about whether or not the numbers were specifically accurate, I don't think that's the real story. And it's really funny. Someone linked me a clip of Asmongold saying, because Asmongold was putting doubt on these numbers, and I think it's fair to do so because we don't know what the scale is, and the scale doesn't have any numbers on it, and it could be a completely different scale to the other graph, and it most likely is a different scale, but And someone in chat was like, "Oh, but Jez said they're accurate," and then Asmongold said something like, "I don't care about what Twitter randoms say," which is funny as hell.
Oh my god, that's fantastic.
Yeah, it's funny. It's funny because Asmongold's reported on my stuff before, But I realized that I have a much smaller platform. But anyways, it's all fun and games. But like I say, I don't have the exact numbers, and I don't know if we'll ever get the exact numbers unless someone like Jason Schreier from Bloomberg, a professional journalist, actually gets them. But the real story is, like I was saying, the real story is the upwards trajectory. Like the comparison against Shadowlands, I think is really compelling. The fact that Shadowlands, they were so frank in admitting that Shadowlands had completely bottomed out the whole game, and everyone hated every aspect of it, and they really wasted Shadowlands, man. I remember like in Wrath of the Lich King where there's a quest in Wrath of the Lich King where like they talk about the Shadowlands, and they're like, there's a bunch of quests actually about the Shadowlands, because your Death Knights get their charger from the Shadowlands in the starting area, and then there's like another quest in Dragonblight where I can't remember his name. You're helping one of the Death Knight characters do something, like exercise spirits or something, and that you teleport into the sort of Shadowlands area of Dragonblight, parallel. You slip through beyond the veil into the Veil of Undeath, and it's kind of like it's kind of cool. It's mysterious, and it kind of felt like there's something really interesting and compelling about the idea of a shadowy mirror world that they were sort of building back in Wrath of the Lich King, and then obviously like the actual Shadowlands is some weird metaphysical, disconnected bunch of Matrix worlds, basically, where some dude designs arbitrary afterlives and then just sends you completely randomly to them. It makes no sense. It makes no logical sense. None of it does. Oh man, let's not talk about it too much or I'll just get really mad.
Yeah,
But,
I was
like,
gonna say,
I
I
was
rein you back in.
yeah, I was so desperate for resolution and from all that stuff that I actually bought all the books to do Shadowlands. I was like, this has got to make sense in one of the books somewhere. I'm reading these books and it's just like, no, none of it makes any sense, even with all these extra books. So, you know, I mean, to be fair, it's the only time I've ever tried buying books for WoW. I was that desperate to make sense of what they were trying to get at.
Wow.
So maybe that's the way to sell books, is to make the storyline really confusing. But
I mean, I've got my copy of the Grimoire of the Shadowlands right back here.
exactly, you know, all that stuff, and also the Sylvanas book, and but anyway, it's good that they've identified all that kind of stuff, and it's good that, you know, they're shouting out about their upwards momentum and being like, yeah, we're in a good place for, you know, the War Within, and you know, War Within has Chris Metzen on it, which, you know, Chris Metzen is one of the founding fathers of World of Warcraft. So there's kind of like there's a obvious big hope there that we're gonna go back to an era where we've got a coherent story, compelling characters, maybe something with a little bit of edge and a little bit of, you know, darkness that's actually coherent, I guess. Because, like, I actually kind of liked where they were going. I put this on record, and I know it upsets you as an Alliance player, but I kind of liked when Sylvanas burned down the tree. I was kind of like,
I understand. I
yeah, I was kind of like, this is huge. This is really compelling. This has to have some kind of. This is going to go somewhere really cool.
Yes.
And they just kind of. They didn't stick the landing. Like, Sylvanas should not still be alive. But they didn't want to. They didn't have the conviction to really follow through on a true war story, and it ends up coming off like a Saturday morning cartoon, you know. Yeah. So hopefully Chris Metzen can remind everyone that the player base are adults, and yeah, it's exciting to see.
You know, it's funny that you mentioned Chris Metzen. Just this morning, and I can't remember exactly how we got onto it, but I started showing my son the Azeroth Choppers series.
Oh, what's
and you remember when they had it was a this was 10 years ago. It was 2014. It was like right around now, April. It was a competition between a Horde team and an Alliance team, and they built those motorcycles.
Oh, yeah. The chopper. Yeah.
The chopper, right? And so Team Alliance was headed by Chris Metzen. It was Chris Metzen, Taryn Gregory, and Monty Kroll. And it's so funny now that, you know, I've gotten to know Taryn a little bit, and, you know, Chris Metzen's my, you know, personal lord and savior, and Monty seemed nice. He's since recently left, and the Horde team was headed by Samwise Didier. Which, you know, it doesn't get much better than that, but it was like a laser point back to a time when in my brain, like, what is Warcraft? What are the ideals? What are the sort of like aesthetics and the words that are spoken around it? I don't know what it is, but like hearing them both describe, you know, Chris Metzen's describing like what makes the Alliance, and Sam Didier is describing, you know, what makes the Horde. And it's just like hearing those two talk about this. It was like coming home. It was comforting. I don't know. It was weird. And, you know, yeah, I'm Alliance through and through. I still hate that bike. I will never like it. I think it looks ridiculous. There are a million other things they could have done, but that thing looks atrocious. Where the Horde bike, I don't know about the trike, but it is a badass looking bike. So, you know, it's got tank treads. What do you want? But anyway, yeah, it was nice seeing that. And certainly to kind of wrap this back up is looking at the slide that they showed at GDC, where it's like we've reestablished the relationship with our players, and they're showing like all of the things that are coming out, you know, Guardians of the Dream and Season of Discovery, and now classic. And then looking ahead, they got Classic Cataclysm and War Within, and more. And they show this like kind of naturally wanting to arc up. There's no line that matches them as they go further up the slide, but clearly they are intending to like climb to those heights. Although when I looked at this and I was like, oh, 8 million, 5 million, I'm kind of looking at the graph and I'm like, 12 million would have looked like freaking Mount Everest, the height of Wrath next to this. And, but that's kind of what we've come accustomed to is it feels like that wave happened like when South Park happened, Make Love Not Warcraft, and that cultural zeitgeist moment, like that has passed. I don't know that Warcraft will ever have that again. I'm okay with that. I'm fine with that. It's the stability, right? Are we stable? And it looks like from this, yes, there's definitely some lows, but they are actually kind of stable. So
it's stable, it's profitable. The thing about capitalism, and I really don't want to get into a big philosophical discussion about it, but it's a big issue in the wider Microsoft Xbox gaming organization at the minute. Like Microsoft keeps going and doing these interviews where it's like, where do we find the growth? Where do we find the growth? It's not enough to stay still because your costs always go up. Costs always go up, wages go up, electricity, server costs, all that stuff always goes up, and Warcraft's no exception. So like, it's not enough to be stable in capitalism. You have to not just be stable, but you have to be growing and looking to expand and go sideways and stuff, which is why like they do things like Warcraft Rumble, and they do Hearthstone, they do Diablo Immortal, much to the chagrin of everyone. Do you guys have phones and all that kind of stuff? And I was joking about World of Warcraft Mobile in the
April Fool deal.
But funnily enough, it's the kind of thing they're thinking about when they're talking about expanding to new audiences. Is how do we find the growth to sustain what we love to do?
Yep.
Which and we all love Warcraft as it is, but they have to do this other stuff because the costs are going up. So it's not enough to stay still. And I know a lot of people don't want to hear that. There's plenty of criticisms you could factor in there too, like. Maybe the execs should be paid less. I'm not saying no to that.
I fully support that.
Yeah,
no problem.
And the high end people should be taxed more. So, and they should do more to manage costs going up and up and up and all that kind of stuff. But that's a completely separate discussion. The problem is we live in the world that we live in right now, and that's a world where costs are going up, and they have to kind of manage that. So. Sure. Is what it is, and it's good to know that it's healthy and growing, against those costs.
Well, and as a resident of California, I mean, listen, I love living here. I will probably never live anywhere else by choice, but I'll be the first to tell you, it is expensive. Housing is expensive. Cost of living, just in general, is expensive. And so, if you're headquartered here, you're paying high salaries. You are, as you said, paying high prices for energy. Because let me tell you, ever since we started getting worse wildfires and all the other stuff that's happened over the last decade, our power prices have just exploded because these companies are having to pay out all these fines, and they're passing the buck on to us, people that didn't do anything wrong. So it is very expensive, and you have to have these sort of side hustles, and it's sort of like Plunderstorm. It may not be for me. It doesn't have to be for me, right? If it brings in more people to help kind of steady that load, that is a good thing. And I guess the last thought that I have is, as I look at these subscriber numbers, at least related to World of Warcraft, I'd be very interested to see what the actual income line is matching against this, taking into account not just subs but also microtransactions.
That's true. I mean, that's another way they can grow. Like.
Yeah.
That's another way they've been able to grow is slipping in microtransactions, mounts, and services on the side. The subscription fee hasn't really grown in line with inflation. They've kept that relatively low. I know they've put the price up a couple of times, but it is relatively low against inflation if you actually go back and look. But they've found growth in other ways, which is microtransactions, which I know remain to be a controversial subject, and I think there's definitely criticism you can make of microtransactions, like especially in Diablo. I kind of feel like with the case of Diablo, it's like all the best looking armor in the game comes out of the microtransaction store. Makes me not want to bother playing the game because it's like, well, I get junk from playing the game, and then I just buy a skin from the microtransaction shop, and then I end up using that forever instead of actually.
How much is one of those?
The skins in Diablo can range from anywhere from like $10 to, 15, $20 for like one of those packs. But then they've been criticized for these like bundles where it goes anywhere up to like $70 for like a mount, some skins, and like a bunch of other stuff. They were criticized for 4 color swaps for the Diablo's version of a Hearthstone, the town portal. 4 color swaps for $40. The town portal.
Wow.
Yeah, and they were class restricted too, so they were heavily criticized for that one. But this is the thing when you sort of when you get a little bit too, growth has to happen. I think it's something we have to accept as a symptom of capitalism or whatever. Growth has to happen, but I think there has to be like when you become too obsessed with it and your focus becomes too heavy on the money and the numbers, that's when the games suffer, and that's when like your focus on money and growth and numbers in a sort of robotic spreadsheety kind of way, that's when it can have the opposite intended impact of what you're trying to do. And I think that's what borrowed power was. I think borrowed power was like game design by the numbers, where they're like, okay, well, we don't want people to we want people to feel like they get we want people to feel like they're getting like a new feature with those expansions, right? And but we can't have power going up forever, so we're gonna make it so those features are rented and they disappear at the end of the expansion. And Destiny's going through this too, where they pretty much put all their previous expansions in the vault to make you want to play the new content or to drive you to the new content. But on the flip side of that, people start feeling like, well, it's not worth my time, and when you've got a game design system like borrowed power where you know that it's going away at the end of the expansion, it feels less compelling than something that is going to stick around, like dragon riding,
Yeah.
So hopefully they've learned that lesson, and we'll be happier for it.
We will certainly see, and it is nice at the end of the day to see this level of public introspection from Blizzard, because we really just have not gotten a lot of that in recent years, and it seems to be part of the overall mentality that they've been showing under Holly Longdale and John Haidt, is trying to be more transparent about what we're doing, why we do it, where we're at. And there's always going to be things that we don't know. We're not entitled to any of this information.
No.
So seeing it in this way, it really in many ways is a gift, and I do appreciate that they're continuing to keep true to their word as much as they can and things of this nature. So if you haven't seen it, there's a few articles out there. I know Wowhead's got maybe the most comprehensive one, is reflecting on 30 years of Warcraft. Blizzard reveals subscriber trends at GDC, and also the Bellular video report WoW's actual subscriber count, and something else. I can't read the rest of the title, but you go to Bellular's page, I'm sure you'll see it. So check it out for yourself. We're seeing, and hopefully WoW continues to be in good health. Moving on, Season 4. Mentioned Season 4 now a couple times.
Yep.
This will be essentially, as far as we understand it, the swan song for Dragonflight. We've now had the sort of the 3 main tranches of content for Dragonflight, where we had the big raids and the new areas and all that kind of stuff. And so back in Shadowlands, we started this sort of experiment with this Season 4, this kind of random grab bag of, we're just gonna put shit in a bag, shake it up, toss it out, see what happens kind of feeling. And there is a PTR up now for Dragonflight Season 4. As is my wont to do, we typically don't talk about a lot of stuff that's on the PTR this early because it's subject to change and who knows what's going on there. But there is a post. There's an official news post where they talk about the new and improved dungeon and sort of dungeon progression curve for Heroic, Mythic, and Mythic Plus.
I really like that.
Talk about that for a little bit, Jez. What's the big get with that?
So basically, what they're trying to do is they're trying to make normal and heroic dungeons a little bit more relevant for longer. And I kind of like that because, you know, it feels almost like you basically just, the way it is right now, you don't even do normal, really. You level up in normal and you just skip it forever. There's no reason to, like, gear up in these dungeons. And, like, even now, like, you kind of just skip. You don't even really do Mythic plus 0. You just basically skip to, like, plus 5 or something with the gear that you've got from the previous season or wherever. And but, like, even at the start of the season, like, you don't really need to gear up. You just go straight into Mythic plus. Because all those other lower dungeons they were just way too easy, I kind of feel like. So I like the idea of it having a smoother progression sort of layer where each level is more meaningful, and that might screw it up. It might not work as well as they're intended, but I like the idea that it is going to be this sort of you know, smoother progression, and each level is going to be more meaningful. And instead of just, you know, getting an upgrade that's like plus 1 level or something, it's like a more meaningful, bigger upgrade, and it's more, you know, it just feels like maybe less of a grind or something. I don't know. I like the idea behind it. Will it pan out? Will it actually be good? I don't know. But, you know, I'm someone who does a lot of Mythic Plus. You know, I'm one of them. You know, I don't.
Somebody's got to be.
Yeah, I don't push too hard, but I do like to, you know, get the rating titles and mounts and stuff like that. I don't go much further than like plus 21, 2 maybe. I'm not totally crazy, but it's cool to see some of that stuff get reined in a little bit. But we'll see what they do with it.
Yeah, you got to be careful. You push too hard, that's how you get hemorrhoids. So at least, you know, if you
yes,
at least if you get you know, high enough to get some mounts and some other noble titles, that you know, that does always seem appealing to me, even though I just don't run them. I'm still scarred from my leveling experience back in the Burning Crusade era from dungeons. I run them once and I'm like, okay, I'm good. And that's why I like the follower dungeons so much. So I don't know. We'll see.
This will make follower dungeons more relevant too, because it means the heroic track will reward a Mythic plus 0 gear now, I think, if I remember correctly. So basically,
something like that.
Yeah, you're gonna get like, when you're running dungeons with followers, you'll get epics, I think, or at least higher item levels stuff. So
yeah,
because followers are all the way through to heroic, right? If I remember correctly.
Right now,
or are they just normal? I don't know.
You know what? I'm not sure offhand. I don't know. Yeah. I'm sure somebody will be yelling at this while they're listening to it, saying maybe what it is, and whatever it is, I'm sure you are right. But yeah, it's the dungeons. The dungeons are always interesting. You know, ever since they introduced the idea of Mythic Plus, it's revolutionized their relevance, and so continuing to find ways to keep those dungeons relevant, if for no other reason, I think it's great the fact that they must spend a shit ton of time building these things and putting them together and coming up with all the bosses and abilities, and you don't want that to go to waste before it's time. So finding a way to keep that relevant, I think, is wonderful. And yes, boosting anything I can do with my followers, phenomenal. In fact, maybe one day, Jez, I can go back to my garrison and put together some followers for my own dungeon group.
That'd be so cool. Or even because they're bringing out the what do they call them now? The war bands in War Within.
Yes.
Right? So like your ults. Maybe your ults can come with you in the follower dungeon. That'd be so sick.
Phenomenal. Oh my gosh.
So yeah, follower dungeons are normal mode only. So. Okay. But you have to imagine that as they improve the system, they probably will expand it to heroic and maybe even Mythic plus 0. I don't know why they wouldn't. I mean, if the technology improves and the AI gets better, and I don't know why you wouldn't necessarily do that. I think that's a really
prestige. Prestige.
Yeah,
You
but that's what Mythic
completed
Plus
that
is
with
for.
dungeon followers. They're fake.
Yeah, but that's what Mythic Plus for. You know, no one cares about
Yeah.
Mythic Plus 0 prestige.
I wouldn't think so. Trust me, that's as high as I've gone. There's not a lot of prestige there. There just really isn't. Nobody gives a shit. So yeah, hopefully you're right there. But yeah, we've got that coming in season 4, along with, as they say, I'll just read this here, powerful new rewards, because you gotta have a new currency here. Earn fresh rewards through PvE and PvP content. Good luck to you. Purchase them with a new currency, antique bronze bullion, or through the new gear upgrade track, Awakened. So we have yet another new currency to manage and another gear upgrade track, which I kind of poo-pooed those when we first started talking about them because of all the crests and everything, and I still do find it a little bit confusing, but it seems to have been pretty popular. The whole upgrade, I don't know, system in Dragonflight.
It seems confusing to start with, but then once you get it, you get it. You know, and it's like, it kind of makes sense. I'm actually quite happy about the rewards because they've brought back the slime kitty mount, which I heard. I missed that. I missed that during Shadowlands. So I'm really happy they brought that back. But I don't know if my guild's going to play season 4, and I might just take a break and wait for because it's not. I don't know. I'd rather have a new raid. I'm kind of tired of the idea of doing the same raids over and over again. I don't know what it is. I don't mind doing the dungeons over and over again, but when it comes to raids, I'm kind of like, I'm ready to move on to the next bit of story stuff. I don't know. But I do like that they've brought this, the dungeon pool will be all of the Dragonflight dungeons for this one.
Yep.
I like that because honestly, I haven't really done some of them that much because they've never been in the pool. So it's kind of cool to, do some of those that weren't in the pools that much and try and push those. But I would have preferred a new dungeon personally, but can't have it all. And I suppose most of the team's working on the War Within now, which I suppose is the more important, effort right now. I know you feel about
Thunderstorm
it.
is your missing dungeon.
Yeah, I don't like that. I always compare like the final patch of an expansion. I always compare it to Sunwell.
Oh man, Sunwell's fucking Hall of Fame Pantheon level. Like you can't compete with Sunwell.
Yeah, I know. I know it was like literally almost 20 years ago, but it was like we got a new island, we got a cool new dungeon that finished with Chaos Fast. We got a brutally difficult raid. The raid that was so brutal, one of the bosses was called Brutalist. It was an amazing patch.
It was.
And nowadays it's kind of like, again, these fated seasons are kind of, they're getting formulaic and
already.
You've done it once and now you're doing it again, and it's now like you'll get to the end of the War Within and they're like, okay, now here's the fated season again, and it's like, oh, I don't want the fated season. I'm just gonna unsubscribe and play some other games because there's a lot of competition out there, and my backlog for Xbox games is extreme. It is extreme, and if a service game gives me a reason to not play it for any reason, I will not play it and just hit my backlog for a bit. And these fated seasons are kind of slipping into that category for me, but I don't know.
Do you think it's better for them? I mean, given the time constraints, would it be better just to have a patch just go on for months and months and months with nothing? Or because it seems like it's one or the other. It seems like the choice they've given us.
I think this is probably what I would do, right? And I know some people probably won't like this, but what I would do is I would probably make mythic raids a little bit easier and make it so like you can outgear them a bit, because right now you can't really outgear a mythic raid unless you're like super pro. So like for my guild, for example, at our skill level, or the level that we're willing to commit to min-maxing and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
We have like no opportunity to go beyond heroic, which you could argue is fine, and I completely understand that sentiment. But at the same time, it means that the vast majority of the player base ends up with no more progression. I think, we can some of our guild can get mythic gear from doing mythic plus 20 or higher or whatever it is. But a lot of our guildies can't, and we don't want to be one of these guilds where like we treat it like a job and we have job applications, and if someone isn't full blown min-maxing, like we bench them. We don't do any of that stuff. So our progression,
I hated those days. I remember those days well. I hated those days.
Yeah, those days sucked. And and I don't begrudge people that do want to play at that level, and I definitely think that level of play should exist. But I think like if like your raid tier progression pretty much ends at heroic, that kind of like makes the tier almost end for a lot of people. I think like there's literally no reason for us to continue playing once we've killed the Farak heroic, because the gear we get from mythic plus 20 is better.
Yeah.
So it takes the fun out of it a little bit. So I would keep the seasons going on a bit longer. I thought like these 2 seasons, it felt like the season ended quite abruptly. I felt Farak we cleared heroic so quickly. I think we killed Farak on the second pull, which is weird. I think for a heroic raid, second or third pull, something like that. So we breeze through this tier really quickly, but still, mythic is such a jump. It's such a huge jump from heroic. And we just don't have the guild to do that. So yeah, I would drag the seasons on a little bit longer. Maybe even consider making heroic maybe a little bit harder, but then also making mythic a bit easier so you can ease into the curve a bit more. And it was weird that we killed Farak in 2 pulls. I think maybe it was
that's pretty good. I know our guild, well, the team that I was a part of, that I don't know that we're really raiding anymore, but heroic was always a pretty good challenge for us, and I do think that we were a little bit on the lower end of the skill, as a group, and I fully admit that I'm part of that. Like, I'm not a world beater by any means, so we always found heroic to be a pretty good challenge. But I watched as the other groups around us just slaughtered everything in Amir Drasil, and I was like, wow, we're really like, even we cleared it through normal pretty quickly, and we were making some progress on heroic before the team essentially was done. I don't know, it's the pendulum swing back and forth. It's like, oh, this raid's too hard, oh, now this raid's too easy, oh, now this raid's too hard.
I get it.
There were so many people complaining about the race to world first when it was, oh, we're going on too long, this last boss taking too long, and then when they didn't take as long, like, oh, now it's too easy and this is bad.
Yeah, it's a really hard balance to strike, because there are players of all different skill levels and stuff. I think the raid probably could have done with more bosses, maybe, at least to give people more road bumps and more time to get through them or something.
I like that.
But the progression just ran out really quickly this season. I don't know, and I suppose and I'm not a hardcore player by any means. Like, well, I don't consider myself to be one. Like, I'm not someone who, I work a full-time job. We raid once a week for 2 hours, and we cleared a Drasil like really quick. We're not like, but like it's not bragging. It's like we're not super hardcore, and we have had tiers where we did struggle. But for what I really did feel like this tier was easy. I don't know why. Maybe we just had lots of gear coming in from last season or something. But I don't know. I think that's the conundrum Wales always had. It's like everyone constantly wants more content as soon as possible. I think Mike Ibarra said it back when he was Prez, and now he's gone. Rip. Yeah.
It takes time. It takes time to get that stuff in people's hands, and we consume it at a pretty good rate. And for folks like yourself or others who've cleared it, getting the ahead of the curve achievement is you've done it timely, because once season 4 hits, that goes away. Ahead of the curve achieved goes away, and we're looking probably not too much longer until we see the rest of this unfold, season 4 start. I mean, within a month, you think?
Yep, I think so. Probably.
There you go. So on this, we had the official post come out, and they talked about all the stuff we just talked about with the dungeons, new currency, and the dungeon pool. If you complete the raids now on different difficulties, what the rewards are for those. But we did hear from Holly Longdale, who, as you mentioned before, kind of on the heels of Plunderstorm, she put up a post about more World of Warcraft experiences to come. I do wonder if this was planned or if in response to us PvEers going, what the fuck? It says, greetings, citizens of Azeroth. It's been great seeing so many players taking the plunge into Plunderstorm, and we've loved seeing all of the stories and feedback as this experimental event evolves. It will be exciting to see some of the community content creators going head-to-head as duos during the Plunderstorm Creator Royale on March 30th. This was posted back on March 28th, so that's why it was upcoming. This isn't the end of the things we want to try in World of Warcraft, however, and we have more in store we can't wait to show you. Dragonflight Season 4 is en route as testing begins on the PTR, and we'll have more news to share soon. TM, trademark. We always joke about soon, what that means around here. On the next experiment, we have up our sleeves. On the next experiment, we have up our sleeves. We hope those of you who are looking for PvE-focused content will enjoy what we're planning, all while we continue to press forward on development of our next expansion for World of Warcraft, The War Within. Can't wait to share with you all the many things the team has been hard at work on, with gratitude and excitement for what we'll do together next. Holly Longdale. Which, I will add, Alpha's coming, and I think some of us may have seen a sign-up. So, it's coming, folks. The Alpha is coming. Very soon. So, when I hear this isn't the end of the things we want to try in World of Warcraft, and we have more in store, we can't wait to show you, and then we're talking about PvE. Does this indicate that is there another secret thing coming up between now and like War Within pre-patch? Is that how I read that?
I would think so. I think Season 4 needs. I think they're cognizant of the fact that they don't want things to feel formulaic, and fated at the end of the season feels formulaic. But maybe they can throw something in there to mix it up a bit, some extra kind of feature, something, But maybe that's just wishful thinking on my part. I suppose it won't be long till we find out. Something they've done in previous expansions is drop expansion features into retail early. I'm thinking about things like I remember when they added the new PvP system. They dropped that in there, I think, and new level caps and new features. And I can't remember off the top of my head, but some of the new class abilities and stuff like that. Could they launch hero talents with Season 4, just the first tier of it, maybe, or something, just to so people can play around with it? Because those first tier talents are pretty powerful by themselves, and they completely change your class. Yeah. And that'll be a pretty good way to set the scene for War Within. Let me don't give me the full tree, but just give me the first talent maybe. Let me summon all those extra demons from the demonology tree, or I think the paladins are upset about this, but I thought this sounded really cool, like the lightsmithing where you can summon weapons that people can pick up and equip,
That's
made
awesome.
of the light and stuff like that, and also Death Knights get mounted combat and shit like that,
That is so fucking cool.
It is super cool.
Yes.
Drop the first talent for every hero tree into Season 4. Let the chaos begin. I think that could be an interesting way to add a bit of spice to next season, and also tease people for the next expansion.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see now that we've had Plunderstorm we, I think as a player base, have a very bad habit of once we've seen a thing, we expect the next thing to always be like that last thing. So like when we looked at patch cycles, well, it was this last time, so we should expect that a patch comes out here. And when like that didn't happen, people lost their shit. Or we expect a X feature to be just like this, and now it's different, and of course there's people that are like, oh, it's the same shit and I don't like it. But we get married to our expectations as a player base. And now I think with a separate game like Thunderstorm, now it's going to be, okay, are we going to get our, I don't know, first person shooter in World of Warcraft as like a separate client where everyone's a hunter and I don't know, you got to go through and shoot murlocs or something. Like, is that the kind of thing that we're going to expect now every time? Is that there's going to be some third person thing where now it's going to be, I don't know, Castle Wash Simulator, and you got to stand outside your capital city and like power wash the thing, and that's like
hey,
a cool,
I want to
chill
play
game.
Castle Wash Simulator. That sounds sick.
See, there it is. That I think is going to be kind of our expectation now. So I don't know. Like I hope they keep experimenting because I do think it's fun. I'm glad that they're doing that sort of thing because it is hard to manage the existing game and then add a bunch of wild shit because there's just so much architecture in many ways that it's built on. But yeah, maybe Castle Wash Simulator. Maybe that'll be it. That'll be the PvE content you've all been waiting for.
I love that. I want Castle Wash Simulator.
Let's go make it, and then we'll sell it back to them and see if we can get like lifetime subscriptions for it.
Oh my god, they could totally do Castle Wash Simulator in that engine.
There you go. Hey.
Oh man, there you go, man. You've just given them a great idea.
There it is. You know what? I'm just making sure that when we hit that low in the subscriber curve, that I'm doing my part to keep that revenue rolling in. Because God forbid something happens to this game and I got to get a real hobby. All right, so season 4, we don't know quite when it's gonna hit. We assume it's gonna be sometime soon. They said it was part of the 2.6 patch stuff, so it should be within the next episode or 2 of this show. And of course, as we get closer and things pop up, we'll talk about it. In the meantime, right now, very much live is Noble Garden. Mentioned Noble Garden earlier. It only runs 1 week, April 1st to April 8th. It's all over the place. You have to check your map or your favorite news site, and they'll have more information about this. You're gathering the Noble Garden chocolates. Remember, that's your currency. New this year, you've got it's some delicious, whether it be European or American. They are delicious in either form. Valdraken's decked out. That's what's new this year, apparently. And we got some activities defending against ducks and doing some other stuff. And there's a flying carpet mount that you can get. There's some other transmog. Some pets, some ducks. If you're really into ducks, this is your jam. If you're into ducks, Noble Garden is your jam. Along with a Hearthstone that's kind of cool. Makes you the center of all forest animals. And a few other things going on. But that is going on right now. Jez, do you participate in Noble Garden activities?
I don't. I don't. It's too happy for me.
You don't put on your bunny ears and go look for eggs? No? Not metal enough?
No, I'm Forsaken / goblins. Well, I suppose goblins would be all over this selling stuff, I guess. But
yeah,
it's too bright and colourful for me. I'm
exploding eggs.
Hallow's End's more my speed, I think.
Ooh. I'll jump in on that one too. Yeah. So while we may not be doing Noble Garden, feel free to jump in yourself and enjoy all of the festivities, and you've got until April 8th to do so. The very last item I had that I just wanted to bring to y'all's attention is recently out on the Blizzard Gear store, they started selling these keycaps, which are there's a Horde and an Alliance keycap. It goes like you replace a key on your keyboard, and they're treasure chests, one Horde themed, one Alliance themed. And I bring this up because I always like to promote local businesses in Northern California. This is based in Northern California in a town here, a college town, Davis, and it's run through the company Clackies. And I say all of this to say I want to support a local business around this part of the state. But I am fully aware of the fact that $60 for one of these things it's a tall order. I'll admit, when I first showed this to Jez off air, and your reaction was 57 euros. Like,
yeah, artisanal keycaps. It's a very lucrative business. I see these keycaps on Etsy a lot, and I actually own some.
yeah.
I own a Pokemon Escape key, and I've actually got a Horde key as well on my keyboard. But it's not the best quality in the world, and I think it still cost me like 20 euros. And these are like hand painted, look like treasure chests. They look really good. So Peep's got to get paid, and then Blizzard's got to get its cut, I suppose.
Yeah.
But,
like I said, California. I mean, you got to pay your labor, and you got to pay your costs.
Yeah, will you be buying one?
I don't know that I'm
supporting local business.
I want to, but man, I'm having a hard time finding that $60 for that. I don't know. Maybe we can work out a deal, do a giveaway or something.
Yeah, I was actually going to think that. Maybe we should do a giveaway for our Discord or something.
Yeah. I don't know. I'll have to send him an email. See if maybe we can get some. Be like, no, it's not. I mean, 60. It's a deal. It should be 100 for this fine artisanal work. So, anyway, I think they're super cool. The cost, I admit, it might be prohibitive. But if you're into such a thing, they do look pretty rad. It's on the Blizzard store. Clackies is the company. And they also do have some other ones, like some Transformers keycaps that look pretty sweet, and some gaming mats, some real like old school stuff that it did legitimately look pretty sweet. So give them a look, check them out, and they're on the gear store now if you are so inclined. All right. I think we've done enough damage for one episode. For those who don't already know, where can the good people find you on the internet, Jez?
You can find me on Twitter /X at JezCorden, JZCORDEN, and also on windowscentral.com/gaming. And also, I've got an Xbox podcast on YouTube called XB2 Podcast. I've also started streaming on my own YouTube channel, which is just Jez.c, I think. I need to come up with an actual name for that, I think, probably. So, yeah, if you search for Jez.c, you'll probably find my stream. I streamed Dragon's Dogma recently. That was fun. But yeah, all over the internet, the old Jez.
There he is. One step closer to getting invited to the next Battle Royale.
Oh,
hopefully,
by the way.
Hopefully, yes.
I found out recently that Jez is Polish for hedgehog. There you go.
Learn something new every day. Listening to Unshackled Fury, we'll keep it that way. So from the hedgehog himself to us, thank you, all of you, for listening to this show. And make sure to look Jez up in those places. And remember, you can always follow me as well and this show on Twitter at Berserker Rage and Unshackled_Fury. On Blue Sky at Berserker and Unshackled Fury, as well as on Twitch at Unshackled Fury and Real Berserker, which we haven't used, but goddammit, we need to use. Now you're streaming, maybe we ought to do something soon. Now I'll put that in the back of my brain. You can also join our Discord, links for which are in the profile of the show on Twitter and on our bonus roll page. Feel free to contact the show with your questions, comments, or otherwise through any of those resources or on shackledfury.com. And you can find the show wherever you get your podcasts. So once again, thank you for listening. Remember to keep your swords wet and your banners high, and we'll see you next time. Farewell.